Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going way back in time to the world of prehistoric creatures. You know, with your interest in paleontology, I thought this would be right up your alley. We'll be looking at some of their most fascinating adaptations and, you know, debunking a few myths along the way.
Myths are actually a great place to start.
Uh,
Yeah, they really highlight how much we think we know versus what the evidence actually shows.
okay, I like where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So what's the first myth on our prehistoric hit list?
Well, let's talk about a supposed symbiotic relationship that's depicted in a ton of illustrations.
Okay.
The Egyptian plover, sometimes called the toothpick bird,
Mm-mm.
is said to clean the teeth of crocodiles.
Right.
Heartwarming image, right?
Yeah, I've seen those pictures. The brave little bird picking bits of food out of those massive jaws. Seems like a pretty risky cleaning job.
That's exactly where the logic starts to break down. There's
Yeah.
very little scientific evidence to support this idea. It seems to stem from a single account by Herodotus, an ancient Greek historian who observed birds pecking around crocodiles' mouths.
So one ancient observation, and centuries later we have this whole myth of a toothpick bird, kind of like a prehistoric game of telephone, where the story gets twisted over time.
Precisely. And when you consider the biology of crocodiles, it becomes even less likely. Crocodiles replace their teeth throughout their lives, so they don't really get the kind of food buildup that would require a dedicated tooth cleaning service.
That makes sense. So those dramatic pictures are probably more about artistic license than scientific accuracy. It's a good reminder that even the most charming animal stories should be examined with a critical eye. What would you say to someone who still believes in the toothpick bird?
I'd encourage them to think like a scientist. Look for evidence. Where are the studies or the observations that back up this claim? Often digging a little deeper reveals a more nuanced and frankly even more interesting story.
All right, myth busted. Now let's talk about a creature that's definitely real and boasts some truly mind-blowing survival skills. The tardigrade, also known as the water bear.
Mm.
I mean, these guys are microscopic, but they can withstand conditions that would obliterate most life forms.
Right.
I mean, how is that even possible?
Well, tardigrades are famous for their ability to survive extreme temperatures, dehydration, radiation. They've even been exposed to the vacuum of space and lived. And speaking of tails, I know you were skeptical of this whole immortal label that gets thrown around.
You read my mind. It sounds too fantastical to be true. What's the real story?
The secret to their resilience lies in a state called cryptobiosis. Essentially, they can hit a biological pause button, shutting down their metabolism and entering a state of suspended animation where they can survive these extreme conditions.
So it's more like extreme hibernation than true immortality.
Exactly. They're not invincible. They still age, and they can be harmed when they're in their active state.
Right.
But this ability to enter a state of suspended animation is still an incredibly impressive adaptation.
It makes you wonder, though, what could we learn from this pause mechanism? Could it have applications for, say, preserving organs for transplantation, or even protecting astronauts from the harsh conditions of space travel?
Those are exactly the kinds of questions researchers are exploring. There's a lot of excitement about the potential medical and technological applications of tardigrade biology. It's a perfect example of how studying the natural world can lead to some unexpected breakthroughs.
All right, we've gone from a mythical bird dentist to a microscopic space survivor. What other bizarre wonders does the animal kingdom have in store for us?
How about a jellyfish that seems to defy the aging process? There's a species called Turritopsis dohrnii that's often nicknamed the immortal jellyfish. Now, before you get any ideas about eternal life, let's break down what's really going on.
Okay, I'm all ears. Spill the secrets of the immortal jellyfish.
It all comes down to their unique life cycle. Jellyfish have two main stages: the polyp, which is stationary and attached to a surface, and the medusa, which is the free-swimming bell-shaped form we typically picture. What's fascinating about Turritopsis dohrnii is that under stress, they can essentially revert back to their polyp stage.
It's like hitting the reset button on their development. So instead of dying, they just transform back into a younger version of themselves.
Exactly. It's not true immortality in the sense that they can't be killed by predators or disease. But this ability to cycle back to an earlier life stage is still a remarkable adaptation.
I can't even imagine what it would be like to experience that kind of biological transformation. It makes you wonder what secrets to cellular regeneration might be hidden within their biology. Could this be the key to unlocking new medical treatments for humans?
It's certainly a possibility. Researchers are actively studying this jellyfish to understand how this process works at a cellular level. The potential implications for human health and longevity are quite intriguing, to say the least.
This is getting more and more fascinating. From myth-busting to exploring the incredible survival mechanisms of these creatures, it's clear that the natural world is full of surprises. But I have to ask, what happens when we encounter creatures that seem almost too fantastical to be real?
You're talking about cryptids, those creatures of folklore and legend that haven't been scientifically verified.
Yeah, creatures like Bigfoot, for example.
Mhm.
The stories and alleged sightings have captivated people for generations.
Mm.
But is there any scientific basis for these claims?
Well, from a scientific perspective, the evidence for the existence of creatures like Bigfoot is pretty thin. There have been countless eyewitness accounts and blurry photographs, but nothing that has stood up to rigorous scientific scrutiny.
But what about those footprints? Could those be considered evidence?
That's a great question. Footprints can actually be very informative in paleontology. In fact, fossilized footprints, which scientists call ichnofossils, can be formally named and classified, just like skeletal remains.
So if someone were to find a Bigfoot footprint that was clearly real and showed unique characteristics, it could potentially be recognized as evidence.
Theoretically, yes. If the footprint demonstrated distinct anatomical features consistent with a large, unknown primate and couldn't be attributed to any known animal or a hoax, it could certainly be considered a significant piece of evidence.
So the search for Bigfoot could potentially hinge on finding that one definitive footprint. That's fascinating. But until then, I guess we'll have to keep an open mind while acknowledging the lack of concrete evidence.
Exactly. That's the essence of scientific inquiry. We explore the possibilities while remaining grounded in evidence. And who knows, maybe one day science and folklore will intersect and we'll finally have a definitive answer to the Bigfoot question.
Well, I, for one, am not giving up hope. The unknown always holds a certain allure. But whether it's a mythical creature or a microscopic marvel, it's clear that the natural world is a source of endless fascination and inspiration.
Absolutely. And it's a reminder that there's always more to learn, more mysteries to uncover. Who knows what incredible adaptations and creatures are still out there waiting to be discovered.
Well, on that note, I think we've covered quite a bit of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah.
From debunking myths to exploring the amazing survival strategies of creatures both real and imagined, it has been quite a journey.
Indeed.
We'll be back soon to continue our exploration, but in the meantime, we want to hear from you. What are some facts about the natural world that you've always accepted as true, but might be worth questioning? Share your thoughts and stay curious.
Always stay curious. Speaking of questioning what we think we know, let's delve deeper into the world of dinosaurs. I know you're fascinated by paleontology, and there are so many amazing adaptations to unpack.
Oh, absolutely. Dinosaurs are like a window into a lost world. It's incredible to think about the challenges they faced and how they evolved to survive.
It really is. And it's not just about their size or ferocity. Some of the most fascinating adaptations are those that help them thrive in their specific environments.
Okay, I'm hooked. What's the first dino on our list?
Let's start with a classic, the Tyrannosaurus rex, or T-Rex for short.
Okay.
It's one of the most iconic predators of all time, and its features were perfectly suited for its role as an apex hunter.
The T-Rex. You know, I always pictured it as this slow, Godzilla-like monster, but I've heard that might not be accurate.
You're right to question that image. Despite its massive size, the T-Rex was surprisingly agile. Its strong legs and balanced body allowed it to move quickly and change direction with ease.
So it wasn't just a lumbering giant. He was actually a swift and deadly predator. But what about those massive jaws and teeth? Just how powerful was its bite?
Well, studies have estimated that a T-Rex could exert a bite force of up to 12,800 pounds. That's more than enough to crush bones and tear through flesh.
Wow.
Imagine the force of a car landing on you and you'll get an idea of the power behind those jaws.
Wow, that's incredible. But there's more to his hunting strategy than just brute force, right?
Absolutely. The T-Rex also had an incredibly keen sense of smell. Its olfactory bulbs, which are the parts of the brain that process smells, were very large. That suggests it could sniff out prey from miles away.
So it was a powerful biter and a super sniffer. It's like the ultimate hunting machine. What other adaptations made the T-Rex so successful?
Well, think about its eyes. They were forward-facing, which gave it excellent depth perception, allowing it to judge distances accurately when hunting.
That makes sense. It would need that kind of precision to target its prey with those powerful jaws. Okay, so the T-Rex was fast, strong, had an incredible sense of smell, and excellent vision. Is there anything it couldn't do?
Well, we can't know for sure, but there's still debate among paleontologists about whether T-Rex was primarily a hunter or a scavenger. Some evidence suggests it might have opportunistically scavenged carcasses as well.
That's interesting. So while we often think of T-Rex as this fearsome predator, it might have also been a bit of an opportunistic diner, cleaning up after other predators or natural deaths.
Exactly. And that just goes to show that there's still so much we're learning about these amazing creatures. The fossil record is constantly revealing new insights, and our understanding of dinosaurs is always evolving.
Speaking of evolving, let's move on to another dinosaur with a truly unique adaptation. The Parasaurolophus. That's the one with the long, curved crest on its head, right?
That's the one. It's been a subject of fascination and debate among paleontologists for decades. But recent research suggests that this crest wasn't just for show, it likely played a crucial role in communication.
Wait, so you're telling me that this dinosaur was using its head crest to talk? How is that even possible?
Well, think of it like a musical instrument. Studies using computer models have shown that air flowing through the crest could have produced low-frequency sounds similar to a trombone.
So they were like walking, talking trombones? That's
Whoa.
wild. But what kind of messages could they have been communicating with these sounds?
That's a great question. It's likely they used these calls for a variety of purposes, such as attracting mates, warning of danger, or even communicating across long distances.
It's amazing to think about these dinosaurs using sound to navigate their world and interact with each other. It kind of makes you wonder what other sensory adaptations might have existed that we haven't yet discovered.
It really does. The more we learn about dinosaurs, the more we realize how diverse and complex their behaviors and adaptations were.
Okay, I'm officially hooked on dinosaur communication.
Ah.
But let's shift gears a bit and talk about a creature that looks like it was pieced together from different animals. Have you ever heard of hallucigenia?
Hallucigenia. Now that's a creature that definitely lives up to its name. Its fossils were first discovered in the Burgess Shale, a site in Canada that's famous for its exceptionally preserved fossils from the Cambrian period.
The Cambrian period. That's a time when life on Earth was really starting to diversify, right?
Exactly. And hallucigenia is a perfect example of the incredible experimentation that was happening during that time. When its fossils were first discovered, scientists were baffled. They had a hard time figuring out which way was up.
Seriously, what made it so confusing?
Well, imagine a creature with a worm-like body, but with spines on its back and these strange tentacle-like appendages underneath. It looked like something out of a science fiction movie.
So it was like a walking, prehistoric optical illusion. No wonder scientists were scratching their heads. How did they eventually figure out what it was and how it moved?
It took years of research and the discovery of more complete fossils to finally understand its anatomy. It turns out those tentacle-like appendages were actually legs, and those spines were for protection.
Okay, so it wasn't as bizarre as it initially seemed. Or maybe just bizarre in a different way.
Let's just say it was definitely unique. Hallucigenia lived on the seafloor, using its 7 pairs of legs to walk along the sediment, and those spines. They probably helped deter predators.
It's amazing how something so strange-looking could have thrived in those ancient seas. It just goes to show that evolution isn't always about being the biggest or the strongest. Sometimes it's about finding a niche and adapting to it in unexpected ways.
That's a great point. Hallucigenia is a reminder that evolution isn't a straight line. It's full of twists and turns, and sometimes it produces creatures that seem like they're straight out of a dream.
I'm definitely dreaming of time traveling to see all these amazing creatures in action. But until then, I guess we'll have to settle for the fossil record and the incredible stories it tells.
Absolutely. And those stories are constantly being rewritten as new discoveries are made. It's what makes paleontology such a fascinating and dynamic field.
You know, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of prehistoric creatures and their incredible adaptations, I can't help but think about how much our understanding of these animals has changed over time.
It really has. Paleontology is a constantly evolving field with new discoveries and technologies reshaping our understanding of the past. It's like piecing together a giant puzzle with each new fossil adding another piece to the picture.
And sometimes those new pieces completely change the way we see things. We've talked about how T-Rex might have been more than just a fearsome predator, and how footprints have helped rewrite the story of the toothpick bird.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what other prehistoric tales are waiting to be rewritten.
I think that's one of the most exciting things about paleontology. There's always a sense of mystery and discovery. Who knows what amazing adaptations we might uncover next?
Speaking of amazing adaptations, we haven't even touched on the bizarre and wonderful world of prehistoric mating rituals.
Oh, yes. That's a whole other fascinating chapter in the story of evolution. Creatures have developed some truly elaborate and sometimes downright strange ways to attract a mate.
It's like nature's own reality show, with each species trying to outdo the others with their displays of courtship and attraction.
Exactly, and some of these displays are more unusual than others.
Oh,
Take the camel, for instance. Did you know that their inflatable throat pouches, called dullas, aren't actually for storing water?
wait, really? I always thought that was their purpose.
It's a common misconception. The dulla is actually a display of masculinity. Camels inflate these pouches during mating season to attract females and intimidate rivals.
So it's like a big inflatable billboard advertising their virility. That's hilarious.
It is pretty funny when you think about it. It's just one example of how evolution can lead to some pretty strange and wonderful adaptations.
And sometimes those adaptations lead to creatures that seem almost mythical. We touched on cryptids earlier, but let's delve a little deeper into the world of Bigfoot, or as it's known in North America, Sasquatch.
Ah, Bigfoot. The elusive hairy hominid that has captured the imagination of people for generations. It's a creature shrouded in mystery and folklore.
And grainy footage.
Uh,
There's that famous Patterson-Gimlin film from 1967 that supposedly shows a Bigfoot walking through the woods. It's been analyzed and debated for decades.
It has, and while it's never been definitively proven or debunked, it certainly adds to the mystique of the creature.
So what does science have to say about the possibility of a large, unknown primate roaming the forests of North America?
Well, the scientific community is generally skeptical, mainly due to the lack of conclusive evidence. There have been numerous eyewitness accounts and footprint casts, but nothing that has stood up to rigorous scientific scrutiny.
But what about those footprints? Couldn't they be evidence?
That's a good point. Footprints can actually be very informative in paleontology. In fact, fossilized footprints, known as ichnofossils, can be formally named and classified just like skeletal remains.
So if someone found a Bigfoot footprint that was demonstrably real and unique, it could potentially be recognized as evidence.
Theoretically, yes. If the footprint showed distinct anatomical features that were consistent with a large unknown primate and couldn't be attributed to any known animal or a hoax, it could be a significant piece of evidence.
So the search for Bigfoot could potentially hinge on finding that one definitive footprint. That's fascinating.
It is. It shows the importance of evidence in science. And while the existence of Bigfoot remains unproven, it's a reminder that there are still mysteries out there waiting to be solved.
Well, I, for one, am not giving up hope. Maybe one day science and folklore will intersect, and we'll finally have a definitive answer to the Bigfoot question. But until then, it's fun to speculate and explore the possibilities.
Exactly. That's the beauty of the natural world. It's full of wonder, mystery, and endless possibilities for discovery.
Well, this deep dive has been incredible. We've debunked myths, explored mind-blowing adaptations, and even ventured into the realm of cryptids.
It's been a journey through the fascinating and sometimes bizarre tapestry of life on Earth, both past and present.
And a reminder that the more we learn, the more we realize how much more there is to know. So to all of you listening out there, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that sense of wonder alive.
Well said. The world is full of incredible creatures and fascinating mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Who knows what amazing discoveries await us in the future?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of prehistoric creatures and their adaptations. Until next time, stay curious.